Okay, we're recording. What's up, YouTube? I'm Lo,
And I'm Emma.
and this is
Good girl.
Good Girl
On the internet.
Okay, I guess. Okay, let's start with Orchestra of Minorities. I feel like that's the oldest one.
Okay, I was trying to see if I had screenshots, and it's unclear. No.
I think we definitely read it though.
Oh yeah. No, I remember reading it because I remember not liking the ending.
Yeah. Okay.
Not to get ahead.
Yeah. Let me just introduce the book. Okay, so we are reviewing An Orchestra of Minorities by Chigozie Obioma. It's a novel, so it is fiction, released in 2019. I picked it, so I will say why I chose it. One day I was at BMV on Bloor, and I saw a bunch of copies, and I was like, oh, what is this book? So I just like flipped through and I was like, oh, okay, like Nigerian author, like that would be fun. So I bought it. I literally bought it in January 2022 or something, like really long time ago. So I was just like, I want to read it. And I had Emma, so I was just like, let's read it together. So that's why. The book is about Nonzo, a chicken farmer who falls in love with Ndali, and they want to marry, but they can't because Ndali is an upper class and Nonzo is uneducated. So he seeks an education and basically gets swindled in, I guess, like international, like in enrolling in a university in Cyprus, which is an island off the shore of kind of Mediterranean Europe, I think. But it turns out to be a fluke. He gets to Cyprus and he hasn't actually been enrolled in university, and we kind of follow his trials and tribulations until the end of the novel. Spoilers. It's not a good ending. What did you think, Emma, before I go into what I thought about the book?
What did I think? It felt in some ways almost like a modern Romeo and Juliet type story. Like two people that love each other so deeply, families don't want them together for various reasons. Not that it ends with, well, I mean, I did not like the ending for sure. You keep thinking, so it has this like, there's also that whole part of this whole part at the beginning. Wow, I'm so articulate today. Before he even meets her. I mean, he meets her, but then he like has that other girlfriend for a while, remember? And then they break up. And so that I'm like, how that fits in is a little unclear to me. The middle, you're like, okay, you get their love story and his swindling and just like bad luck after bad luck after bad luck. And you want to root for him. Like he seems like a nice guy, all this stuff. And you're like, come on, he's got to catch a break at some point. And then at the end, you're like, okay, fuck me, I guess he doesn't. So that's like my thoughts on the plot. The writing, like the style that it was written in, at some points I found it kind of like I had to almost read it twice. It was challenging at points for me to read in a good way, like, you know, trying like reading something differently, but it wasn't something I could kind of lose myself in that way. Number two, it's all told from the perspective of his, I forget the word. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was really cool. I actually really liked that narrative choice.
The narrator is always in character. You know, it's always like, it's a hard thing to do that for a whole entire novel, but yeah, you can definitely feel the narrator is like literally pleading not his case, but the case for his human, if you will. Yeah, but I agree that it was hard to lose myself into it because I was like, I mean, because the spirit is telling the story through like a tether. So I felt like I was looking at the story through the looking glass of like trying to understand. I felt external to the story. Like
And he's
because
telling it to like the gods, I guess, to like plead his
Yeah.
case after something's happened, which you don't necessarily realize, or I didn't realize at the beginning, and then he tells you kind of 3/4 way through it, and then again at the end. So yeah, that is it. I agree with that.
It was high. It was good. It was highbrow. It was not easy to read. And then I don't understand that about myself, but literally at the back of the book it says like a modern Odyssey, which like if you know anything about literature, it's like the Odyssey is not a fun story. Like it's literally like suffering. But like you, I really thought that Nonzo and Dali would prevail, and then they didn't.
And they didn't in such an epic way. It wasn't even like, oh, they don't end up together. It was like they completely misunderstand each other, and he does that like horrible,
Yeah.
like, he kills her, right? Like accidentally.
Involuntary manslaughter. Yeah.
Like, oh, but it's rough because you're rooting for them.
Evil. Yeah. I was truly rooting for them for real. It was like an impossible love story. Is it? Yeah, it was. What did I write? What else did I write? I liked the modern touch. It's definitely a modern Nigerian epic, if you will, like trying to earn this love or this woman or this marriage, if you will. Some of the language is a bit old school, but it's a chi, so old school thinking. It's just it's an unlucky tale. It's just I felt so bad. The whole imprisonment in Cyprus too. I was just like, this is too much.
Yeah, because it's like he's imprisoned, and then it's like 4 years later, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this man who has like always tried to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Just got screwed over. And it wasn't like, oh, you'll be in prison for 6 months. Not that prison in 6 months is a small thing either, but like years and years. And you're like, oh my god, this poor soul.
Yeah. And then like, so the guy who swindled him, Jamike, he got like a redemption arc, and I was like, he
Didn't
really
love that.
I was just like, why?
Yeah.
That decision from the author, I was like, that could have been the involuntary manslaughter. You know what I'm saying? Just like, why choose? Anyways, that creative choice was bizarre. But he was good. I mean, Obioma is a great writer, obviously, but I don't know if I would read his other work simply because if I'm rooting for your characters and you like write their demise, like I'm not sure if I'm gonna read it.
Yeah, like I like to be surprised. I don't want a book that's too predictable, but I don't want to be like run into a brick wall of depression surprised. Like I want I want to root for someone.
In the end, we don't even know what the gods decide. So we don't even get to find out the deliberation. You just pull the plug like that. That was crazy. Anyways, in my index card after finishing it, I wrote, why do novels not end in the way that I want them to? Honestly, like the entire day, I was like, damn, that's actually crazy. But I don't have much else to say. It was a good novel. I mean, it was.
Would you recommend it?
Something at my heartstrings because I was like, I really wanted the love story to work out. But
would you recommend it?
No, like no. It's not because I hated it, but it was just no. You know, there's other. It's a hard book, so it's hard to recommend like a hard book. It was not easy to read. I think that's my cutoff. I'll go with that answer.
I think I also wouldn't recommend it, but not in the sense of like there's some books I recommend people not read, like All the Young Men, right?
Oh,
Whereas this, I'm like, I'm not recommending you don't read it. Like, if you really like that author or you really want to, like, go for it. It's a good book.
It's literature. Like, you have to
Yeah.
sit down and you're like, this is some AP English shit, you know? It's not.
Yeah, like, pick it up if you want that. But if you're like, oh, should I read this? No, you should not.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. All the Young Men, definitely not. Hillbilly Elegy, no, not recommended.
Any Malcolm Gladwell, also I'm big on the Malcolm Gladwell slander.
Oh,
Any
yeah.
Malcolm Gladwell is a hard no.
Yeah.
And I'll fight you if you say you like him.
I didn't even get past second chapter of Talking to Strangers. I was like, what is this? Like, this is so weird.
I have to send you a podcast.
Is there Malcolm Gladwell podcast Slender?
Yes, and it's so good. Okay.
That's so funny.
Please stand by.
Yeah, our viewers need to know.
Okay, so the podcast is called If Books Could Kill, and it's great. It's a different book every episode, and it's fairly new, this podcast, so they don't have a ton of episodes out yet, and they have an episode.
Follow it right now.
You should. They have an episode called Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, and it's 50 minutes, so it's easy enough. Like, read it while you go for a run, while doing the dishes, whatever. It's amazing. They're also really funny, so like you'll laugh out loud, but it is so good because I hate Malcolm Gladwell, and sometimes I have a hard time explaining my hatred and how much of a hack he is, and these guys do it so well. So highly recommend.
Okay. I'm into it. Hey, I have the house to myself, so I can play a bunch of stuff undisturbed.
Yeah, because then you can see other books. Like, I haven't listened to it, but I heard it was good. The Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus episode. What was the other big one? Freakonomics. Like, all these just dumb men books that like men are like, this is so good. Huh?
I've only heard men quote Freakonomics, and I'm like, what the hell is that book? Anyways, that was a tangent.
I haven't read it, nor do I want to, but maybe I'll listen to the podcast slandering it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's just like there's so many better books than these weird books. Like, okay, into it. I followed it on Spotify.
Perfect.
Okay, let me just answer. I'm recording for girls.
I hope you keep this in the video.
Yeah,
this is your life.
Talking about books.
And that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. So,
what is our outro again?
Huh?
What is our outro again?
It's thanks for watching. If you like our videos,
please like and subscribe.
No, please subscribe.
Please subscribe. We don't ask for likes from there. Okay.
Well, this is basically our outro.
Please subscribe. Please.